Right, so Costa Rica called 60 billion, El Salvador 30 billion. I mean, is it unreasonable to think that El Salvador's GDP is going to catch up to Costa Rica in the next 2 or 3 years? So El Salvador has the potential to similarly attract the best and the brightest with perfect money, with Bitcoin. It's already happening. So the tourists come. This leads to, in the tourism sector anyway, you've got an increase in hotels, which increases the workers, which increases the income, which increases GDP, which increases the adoption of Bitcoin, which increases tourism, which increases the hotels. So you get this virtuous cycle building up, just like in Florence. It's all around Bitcoin. You've got the President Bukele, which is like the Medici of Central America. These other countries in Central America are looking at El Salvador and they're saying, you know, how do we get in on some of this action? And it really has become the land of the free. People who are tired of the oppression that's happening in some of these other fiat-based economies. And fiat money is oppression. Fiat money is slavery. Fiat money is kind of the end of humanity as we know it. Whereas Bitcoin is a continuation to this financial headline, which talks about all the sunk costs and the waste of money, is completely wrong. I mean, they're missing the point. They don't understand that this is an investment that will ultimately rise, as of course Bitcoin is programmed to increase purchasing power against fiat money, mathematically guaranteed to do so. Meanwhile, you've got all this boom times in terms of people coming here and participating in a brand new emerging force of excitement. And they've got so many natural resources and energy, it's quite something. I, in fact, was tweeting all about it and getting nasty. And had I not made so many spelling errors in my tweet, I would have posted that tweet. A state bird with a boomerang. That should be the state bird with a boomerang. That's why I'm making that recommendation. Well, okay, I think we sorted it. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, much more coming. Last week, I had the great opportunity to speak with Nick Bhatia. He is the author of Layered Money, soon to be in Spanish. He'll be here in El Salvador soon to talk about it. Now, we sat down to chew through the numbers, stocks, bonds, interest rates, Forex markets. Where are we going with all this? Is there a specific number that maybe can guide us through all this? On February 26, 2022, the U.S. seized $630 billion of reserves held by Russia. Was a monetary Rubicon crossed? What are the range of possible consequences we might see in the short, medium, and long term? Right, well, let's talk about another currency, the yen. You know, all this globalized Forex trading, sometimes the yen gets overlooked. It is a major funding currency in that it's been used by speculators to borrow and then invest in higher yielding currencies around the world, the so-called carry trade. It's sold off hard in the past few weeks. Yield curve control seems to be faltering. What next? And does any of this matter for the Fed's plans to perhaps do the same? Right now, what I'm hearing from you when you're talking about this is Cynthia Lummis, senator from Wyoming, has got a bill in Washington she's trying to get passed. They're figuring out at what threshold would constitute a taxable event. Is it $600, for example? And this is the kind of fine-tuning that's going on. But in your mind, as I understand it, you're just saying, look, just treat Bitcoin as money, and you don't need to waste a lot of time with all this other bureaucracy that accompanies it. That's a big waste of time. Getting back to El Salvador, where the president has made Bitcoin legal tender, you do have a tremendous knock-on effect. You've got tourist dollars pouring in and to the tune of hundreds of millions. Investment, forward investment into the country, inward investment is being calculated in the billions. When you add it all together, the question is, how do you see it going forward in the short, medium, and long term? Well, recently the president hosted 44 central bankers. They came here to El Salvador as part of a regularly scheduled program, but they got into Bitcoin quite extensively. They've got their wallets, they're trading Bitcoin. They've now gone back to their respective countries and they're orange pilling the world. And it's mostly the global south, Nick. So is this a trend to look forward to, that it's going to be the global south to lead the way in this hyper-Bitcoinized world we're going to see in the next few years? What are your thoughts on that? Right, Nick, so your book, Layered Money, and it's a great title, it's a great book. It looks at the global financial world and like a layer cake. You've got different layers and they're all operating simultaneously of finance, and at the bottom or base layer is tier one money. And this is basically and traditionally been gold and sometimes it's the U.S. Treasuries. Now we've got Bitcoin. But the question is, with this crash, with the volatility, is it still, Nick, tier one money